Welcome to Sideline Sports, where we give you an up-close and personal look at the teams, coaches, and athletes that make up the Columbia Basin. Here's your host, Jeff Slakey.
Welcome to Sideline Sports. This week, a Moses Lake girl has made wrestling history. Thrilling games that went to the wire when Big Bend hosted Wenatchee Valley. And Ephrata trumps over rival Quincy. The game of the week, Moses Lake Wrestling versus Othello and Chiawana. It's back-to-back on the same night.
This portion of Sideline Sports is being brought to you in part by...
While several girls have wrestled for Moses Lake, Melanie Flores is the first to wrestle with boys on the varsity team.
Moses Lake's Melanie Flores made history this past Tuesday when she became the first girl to ever compete for the Moses Lake Wrestling varsity team. Flores competed in the 106 weight class and beat her opponents by points, 6-1, helping Moses Lake win every single match against Eisenhower. She talked about her experience.
It was still a maybe before, like an hour before I found out. He was like, okay, you're for sure wrestling. I was like, oh, okay. And then 10 minutes before going out there, he told me that I was the last wrestling match, the last match that was wrestling that night, because everybody else had a forfeit. So I think that's when it kicked in, and I was like, oh crap. I mentally told myself that I had to go and dominate because I didn't want to be the losing one of the team for the night. So as soon as I told myself that, the butterflies went away, and as soon as I stepped on the mat, I knew it was time to go to work.
Flores' game has been improved by her coach Javier Valdez, who was hired on as the girls' coach just a few years ago. He's been part of the wrestling program since he was a student at the high school in the 70s.
You'll never see that in our history records, that a girl's been that good to step into the varsity lineup for the boys and compete and win. I believe in her, and I have confidence that she can wrestle with just about anybody.
Moses Lake will next compete against Othello and Chiawana in back-to-back duels on Wednesday. The usual varsity wrestler will look to return for those duels, but if he's not ready to go, Flores may be called upon again. I'm Adam Chikoski for i5er1 Sports.
Sideline Sports is being brought to you in part by...
Cheryl Konos Farmers Insurance is your local one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Whether it's auto, home, life, business, and farm and ranch, Cheryl and Farmers are here for you. She'll work to put together a package that fits your needs no matter how big or small. She's right here in Ephrata. Please stop by for a free quote at 858 Basin Street Southwest or call 509-754-2550.
Big Bend and Wenatchee Valley added a very exciting chapter to their rivalry.
Regional play started with a bang last night when the Big Bend Vikings hosted the Wenatchee Valley Knights. Big Bend Women's held the better record, but anything can happen in a rivalry game. Early in the game, it was all Knights, who quickly jumped up by double digits, being led by guard Ashlyn Burgess. The height of their lead came with 3 minutes into the third quarter when they led by 23 points. But then the Vikings started to fight back. Big Bend worked hard to close the gap created by the Knights and largely outplayed the Knights most of the second half. Callie Groning of the Vikings led the charge, scoring 21 points, with 9 of them coming in the fourth quarter. Groning drilled a three-point shot late to tie the game. Burgess was able to draw a foul, and her steady free throw shooting put the game just out of reach for the Vikings, who fell 81-78. The men took the court afterwards. The Vikings competed but were ultimately overwhelmed by the Knights, who won the game 81-61. Big Bend men and women will compete at Blue Mountain on Saturday. Both Blue Mountain teams have struggled so far this season. Wenatchee Valley will host Columbia Basin, which has a struggling men's team and a contending women's team. I'm Adam Chikoski for i5er1 Sports.
This portion of Sideline Sports is being brought to you in part by...
Ephrata and Quincy have been taking games from each other in different sports all season, but last week Ephrata walked away with the win in this rivalry.
It was a good night for the Ephrata Tigers, who beat the visiting Quincy Jacks in both boys and girls basketball by large margins. The girls team jumped ahead early in a hurry, entering halftime up 42-6. Ephrata starters sat most of the second half, including all of the fourth quarter, allowing for the hopeful future stars to get significant playing time. Quincy played tougher defense in the second half, but it wasn't enough to keep Ephrata from getting the big win, 59-14. Defense was the name of the game early when the boys played each other. with Quincy boys refusing to let the game get away from them in the first half. The first quarter ended in a tie, and Ephrata only led by 7 going into halftime. After halftime, the Tigers exploded, scoring nearly more than double the points that they did in the first half, eventually beating down the resilient Jacks 54-28. Ephrata plays again tonight when they host Grandview, a team that both the boys and girls have already beaten this season. Quincy will travel to Sela tonight. I'm Am Chikoski for iFiber1 Sports.
Some scores for you in boys basketball. Royal 62, Connell 42. Moses Lake 77, West Valley 63, and Ephrata over Grandview 87-72. In girls basketball, Ephrata over Grandview 61-54, Moses Lake over Eastmont 64-38, and in overtime, Warden beats Riverview 63-59. In wrestling, Moses Lake 70, Eisenhower 0, Othello 48, Ephrata 19, Quincy 36, Wapato 30. Moses Lake will take on 2 serious contenders in back-to-back duels. First, Moses Lake will host Othello, followed by Chiawana. Last season, both Othello and Chiawana took 6th in the 2A and 4A divisions respectively. Matchup of the night will be in the 160-pound division against Chiawana when Moses Lake state champ Hunter Cruz will take on state champ contender Tyson Stover. Upcoming games in boys basketball, Keanu Benton at Royal, Davis at Moses Lake, and Wapato at Ephrata. In girls basketball, it's Davis at Moses Lake, Ephrata at Toppenish, and Okanagan at Kashmir. In wrestling, Othello at Quincy, Sela at Ephrata, and Eastmont at West Valley. This has been another presentation of Sideline Sports. I'm Jeff Slakey.